Welcome to The Journey. It is Monday night. We are back. We had a couple weeks there where we weren't here. There was Easter, and then I was under the weather, let's just say. And we are back. We are live. We're excited to have you here tonight. We're excited to see what unfolds. Also, just want to let you guys know that if you want to watch past episodes, you want to dive in deep, one of the best places to do that is YouTube. And you can search Grace and Truth, John Brown, and you'll find The Journey. You can also just go on YouTube and search The Journey. I'm sure will pop up. We have enough episodes now. But yeah, YouTube's a great place to go back and watch past episodes. Also, if you want to just catch the audios and re-listen to them, you can find them anywhere you can get a podcast. So Spotify, Deezer, all these places, Podomatic. You can find the Grace and Truth John Brown podcast anywhere. That's what the channel was before The Journey started, so we just kept it the same. Also, if you want to be a part of what we are doing here, you want to help us to do what we do, you can go to www.hcm-stratford.org. There's a donate button, and you can be a part of what we're doing, helping to bring revelation as it comes and the unfolding and teaching of who the Father is. And so if you guys would share the broadcast, that'd be awesome. We appreciate you so much. Also, feel free to comment and be a part of the evening. Eddie already commenting, love it. And, because sometimes God uses you guys to help bring us in areas we might not have been thinking to go. Also, full disclaimer, you are powerful enough to disagree. We welcome you to just be you and be where you're at with God. And we're not here to tell you that we've got it figured out. We're just here to share what's on our hearts. So, Song of Remembrance. What's up, Shakira? And it's nice that you guys are all tuning in.
We're all on the journey, right?
Yeah, no, and that's the thing, right? That I've literally probably have stretch marks in the spirit for the amount that I have been able to let go in this season.
Yeah.
To the point where today I realized that this entire thing, and this is just where I'm at right now. Yeah. This entire experience is so that I will understand the Father more.
Yeah.
That I would know how, because I personally believe that God went through the same process that I'm going through.
He walked
within
through
himself
as you.
Exactly, right? And so he is not frustrated. He is not angry. He's not wrathful. All these things were us projecting triggers and fears and all those things upon him as an image, a false image.
Yes.
And Christ came to remove the false image.
Yes.
And I was realizing that Jesus had this amazing way of treating everybody as equals. Whether it was a Pharisee of Pharisees like Nicodemus, who was a great teacher of the day, or it was a woman at a well.
Because he didn't have separation in his mind.
Exactly. And he wasn't living out of the realm that,
or he'd be in sin, right?
Yeah, one of the things that blew me away today I was pondering about was the white throne judgment is this fear factor for most Christians, right? They think it's where God's going to look at every decision they've ever made and he's going to weigh it out and you're going to get judged, right? But what they don't understand is that understanding of judgment only comes from someone who lives in a carnal mind. Because there's other layers of judgment. One of them's authentication.
Yes.
To authenticate something, to look at it.
It makes sense.
And show what is true and what is not, right? So you can have, let's say, a patch of dirt, and they're digging. And there's gold in the ground, but there's also fool's gold in the ground. So how do they determine what's what, right? And so the white throne judgment, as I have encountered it in a picture, God gave me a picture. I don't think I was actually there. I think
which
it was
is
just,
language, him
exactly.
speaking, right?
He was trying to speak something to me. And the one thing that I got from it was that he was there to reveal my true self, to remove everything that was not me.
So would it be fair then, in the same word, slightly different words, same message, he's there to take you out of blindness or darkness into the fullness of the light, which is him.
Exactly. He was removing...
And everything that it gets removed, It's in the darkness of your own mind, right?
Yes. And so even a memory can be darkness
Absolutely.
because it's a memory of a lie.
Yes.
And a lie or a carnal encounter.
Mm-hmm.
Like my thoughts are higher than your thoughts. What does that mean? It doesn't mean they're 6 feet tall and my thoughts are 3 feet tall. It means that there's a higher way of seeing things.
Yes.
So I've been living my whole life
From a lower frequency.
from this carnality frequency,
Mm-hmm.
which does what? It's instinct. It's survival. It's
Yes.
very basic. It's you hit me, I hit you. I'm scared, I'm going to protect myself. I feel attacked, I'm going to lash out. I've lived in this realm so long that I have now more experiences on this side of the scale than on what God says.
Well, yeah, your memories create who you think you are.
And so what God's teaching me to do now is realize that there is no past.
Right.
It's gone.
We're in the present right now.
I can't get to it.
No.
So if I can't get to it, why am I holding on to it?
Because you believe it's you.
Exactly. I'm living in duality,
Exactly.
existing in the past when there is no past.
Right. It's gone.
The sea of forgetfulness, as far as the east is from the west, it's gone. And God is living completely in the moment,
Now,
seeing you as you are.
so the scary thing about you living out of the past is you're doomed to recreate your future the same as your past.
Well, if I'm the
because
author,
it's what you believe.
exactly. If I'm the author, and God's handed me the pen,
Well, you believe.
He says, "Here, Corey, here's the pen,"
Mm-hmm.
and I believe my past experiences. What am I doing? I'm then going to write my life based on those past experiences.
Because it's your focus, it's your expectation, and this is where your mind is, and that's why it brings it about, right?
And so, how do we get out of where we
That's
are?
another program.
Exactly. And though that happens when contradiction comes.
Yeah.
That's an invitation.
Yeah.
It's not actually, the contradiction's not there to mess you up. It's there to indicate to you that something's wrong with the program.
So this is really good because this is where we're going to go tonight from another angle, but with
Yeah.
that truth.
But that's, I've been just really digesting
So what
this
you,
today.
you said right at the beginning, let's go down that for a moment.
Yeah.
So Moses goes up.
Yes.
There's a picture. Remember, you got layers. So here's a picture. So it's to tell us something about us. So Moses goes up the mountain, which is he ascended in Christ, right, to that place. And he was in that place of intimacy with the Father. But while he's there, what they did down below is they needed something to project their belief in. They believed in God that Moses is talking about, but they needed something,
They wanted something.
a form. They needed a form. So what they did is they put their energy and their resources into it. We're talking they made a golden calf,
Yeah.
okay? They put their resources, their money, you see it, and their energy, which created this stuff, into this image, and they were worshiping it. Now, what do we do in the West?
Yeah.
What we've done is we have created an image after Jesus. It's not him. It's an image. It's the golden calf. If you really think about this, it is the golden calf that we put our money into, our strength and our resources into an image. And the image
touch.
is a form
Yeah.
created after what we perceive as God. It's our image of God, just like in the Old Testament, you'll see these bad things. Well, it's their image of who God is. So they've projected this image of who God is, and then we worship at the calf,
Yeah.
the cross,
Yep.
whatever it is that we have as an image, instead of worshiping the living word, the Spirit of God himself. He's God. The one Moses is talking to.
Yeah.
That's the one we're to talk
In the
to.
place of ascension. Yeah.
We don't need images. Now let's take it a step further. The next step would be that we start to break free, but we start to follow a man because the man's anointed with a gift. And when we think that everything coming out of his mouth is literally from the throne, so then, and it may be carnal understanding, but we follow him because he has now become our idol. We're idolizing him like we idolized.
The same way they did in the Old Testament.
Yeah, that's right. He's when it says the altars in the high places and the prophets went to tear them down, it wasn't necessarily talking like we think it was or like the movies tell us. It's that they've created something within themselves to a place higher than Christ, and the prophets came to speak the truth, to tear them down in the minds of man, what God really is.
Come on.
So the West, we still have to do the same thing. We have to come to a place where we honor the presence of God on an individual that is feeding us. In other words, we're always learning and we're always teachers. So I'm always a disciple and I'm a teacher. I'm always learning because I haven't arrived, but I'm also, and I probably never will, I'm always learning, but I'm teaching as well. As God gives me, I give away.
Yeah.
So it's a dual. Do you see it?
Yeah.
And so that's what's going on. And
It's a conduit.
Yes.
It flows through,
and
but also in.
Yes. And so in that place, we have to be open and recognize, but not get caught with the individual or the vessel. Because what happens is, if I get caught with a particular person, let's say, we're all going to, well, no, I won't say that. We all get caught following an individual. Then what happens is that idol needs to come down, because what you want to do is not come to what I believe, but come to him who I believe.
Yeah.
Because I don't know yet. He's going to speak to you different than he does to me.
But this has been the problem with the fivefold, unfortunately, I'm not trying to speak bad of the fivefold. This is
It's wonderful.
only something that I've seen.
Yeah.
Is it's supposed to be there to teach people how to be and operate in that function.
Yeah, equip.
It's not supposed to be people worshiping the function or having. It's like, if I'm a pastor, I'm to teach people how to pastor, to go, hey, when you're dealing with a person,
shepherding,
allow God to move through you this way so that you can love them the way they need to be loved. And the prophet comes along and goes, you know what you could do too? Let him speak through you, and then all of a sudden everybody starts functioning out of the fullness of who God is. And with the image thing, this is wild. I saw this today from a verse. Here's one verse that has modeled most people's beliefs of God. It's this: be either hot or cold, or I'll spit you out of my mouth.
Right.
We talked about this.
Yes.
And it was actually talking about two rivers that existed in the region. One was hot,
Hot water coming from the
which
mountains.
was healing. No, from the river.
There was
the hot
two-
one comes from the river,
down
which
to the
was
valley.
for your healing, like for your body. You would go to those hot springs and get restored. And then the cold water coming from the mountains was to refresh you.
Yeah.
And so God said, either be healed or refreshed, but do not lean on your own understanding.
Yeah.
And what was happening, the people in that area were leaning on their own intellect and not on God anymore.
Right.
And that's what that verse actually means. Do not lean on your own logic, but be healed and refreshed.
By the word of God.
Exactly,
Living word.
right? So I know people who take that verse and they're like, "Oh, I'm not doing something right. God's going to spit me from his mouth."
No, I know. But again, isn't that coming through that false image of the grumpy sky god?
It's exactly that. And
Yeah.
that's the golden calf.
Yeah.
And I'm just showing one verse, let alone the hundreds and hundreds of other verses.
And that grumpy sky god, by the way, is Greek and Roman
Created.
paganism. It's Olympus, Mount Olympus, in the sky where the gods are. That's where that all came from and filtered into the West.
Yeah, because it never in the East, God was omnipresent. God was all in all. God was in the everything.
Yeah,
He
when
was all around you.
Jesus said, God who is in heaven,
Yeah.
he said sacred unity that's everywhere.
Yeah. Exactly. See what I'm saying? Like, and yet we, in our own pride, even myself, took this sacred hint book and thought we understood it. We've got this figured out.
Well, we didn't even take time to look in it, really. We just did what people told us.
We
to
just
do.
read the English version.
Yeah, and
Then figured we knew who God was.
Yeah.
Like, this is what I did. This is just personally what I did. And I lived by the principles. And when I saw them work, I'm like, this is it. This is God. This is what he does. This is who he is. And I lived there for so long. But guess what? I never got free.
No, I mean, there was moments, obviously, of good things. And let me interject this at this point and say that I honor Western Christianity. It was an incredible revelation to my heart because it's a step on the ladder.
Yeah.
It's like Paul talked about childish things, and it's time to put them away and mature. That means we've got to grow spiritually. What does it mean? To come into a greater place of awareness in an intimate place of relationship with the Creator himself, to know who you are and who he is. And if you stay in that place, because remember what I said, sin consciousness is the beginning. I wake up to something,
Yes.
and then he says, metanoia, turn around, and I look at the mind of Christ and become Christ conscious.
Yeah.
But if I stay sin conscious on that one level on the ladder, I don't grow.
No.
And that very place that was freedom for me was such a blessing becomes a prison. Now I can't get out. And that's at that point that the Lord has to pierce our pride in what we think we know, which says through a mirror dimly.
I would be very
Right?
bold to say that the Lord, and I don't mind saying it, I believe that the Lord has allowed, maybe not allowed, things have come. Let's just say things have come
Yeah.
that have humbled the church, the Western church.
We can hope.
How many stood up in the last 2.5 years and spoke with no power?
Yeah. It's
How
been
many did
going
we
on a long
lose?
time.
How many did we watch fall into death and decay?
Yeah.
And it was sad. But I believe that there's something happening. There's a contradiction taking place right now because there is a great awakening happening on the earth.
There is. It's
Where
a
it's-
reformation.
And this is where we get, once again, the pride thing. It's not a reformation of the church.
No.
It's a reformation of mankind.
Of humanity, yes.
God is waking us up. Dude, today, I think it was like noon or something, blunk, Elon Musk buying Twitter for 44 to keep free speech alive.
That's right.
Think about this.
Yeah,
God just moves the hearts of kings
I know.
and goes, well, no one can filter this state.
We'll stop those algorithms.
Yeah, like,
And he said, Elon said that he doesn't want to break the law. It's not about breaking law. It's just about not controlling free speech.
Yeah.
And so therefore, he thought he should buy Twitter instead of, some of those other companies, Google, Facebook, whatever.
yeah, who are trying to control the information.
Well, they don't want to own the whole information network, right?
Well, and this is the thing is not everything out there is a conspiracy. I've learned that.
No.
I've learned so much in the last little bit that has set me so free. I'm not fighting the darkness. I'm not any of that stuff. But any time that somebody gets awoken to something is a good day.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just a good day because somebody's going, you know what? People should be able to talk to other people about whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah. So
It's a good day.
you're gonna love tonight. We're just what
Dive
we're gonna
in.
do is if everybody what we want to do is we're gonna gather around a table. He says he sets a banqueting table for us. We're gonna gather around a banqueting table and break bread. How's that? And as we do, we're gonna ask the Spirit of the Lord to awaken us to something. It's all about perception. You can perceive something and it imprisons you, or you can perceive something and it opens a door and sets you free. So what we want to do is look at something in the Word. So I'm going to give some scripture for this, and then I'm going to unpack it a bit, which I think will help better understand something. Because there's been this vacillating storm about this for about at least 5 to 10 years. And God really began to speak to me about this and started to give me a greater understanding because I've always desired. I kind of seen it in part, but I desired something, and now I'm beginning to see it in a much greater way. So let's jump in. the Father asked me one time, he goes, there's a foundation, and it's the beginning of awakening to what I call absolute truth. So there's what's true, and then there's what's absolutely true. And absolute truth in the early days of the church, the body of Christ, it meant the living word. The living word was the absolute truth. And so there's the absolute truth, and then what's true is what I believe in the moment. It could be my experience. You stomp on my toe, and I'm having pain in my foot, and that's true to me, right? But it may not be the absolute truth if I figured out that it was actually an energy field, and that was just a reactor telling me that. Now, that's not really a good explanation, but it is true that we are energy, slowed down energy, or spirit slowed down into matter is what we are. And so if we understood there's what's true, and what's true to me today won't be in 5 years, may not be in 6 months. It's like as God awakens me from step to step on the ladder, we'll call it the staircase to heaven. Everybody loves the stairway to heaven. So it's another step. I have to let go. When I step up from one step to the next, I got to take my foot off the previous step, and I'm no longer there. So it's no longer true to me anymore. Was it true at the time? Absolutely. Was it good for me? Yes. Is it now? No. I have to keep going, like St. John of the Cross. If we're willing to want to know, we got to go into the unknowing. Unknowing means letting go of what you know in order to attain what he knows. And we won't get it as long as I keep myself in a safe, secure place of knowing what I know right now or what's true to me. That's imprisoning me. It's all important because they're all steps. I can't get to the top of the staircase without walking up the steps.
Yeah.
So everyone's important to get me there. But the point of it is to get there. It's the same as, let's say we're going to take a trip to Toronto, but we get to Shakespeare and we get out of the car and we're all excited and we're there. And we're like, this is nice, but like seriously, this ain't Toronto. We're not in Toronto. We had to go through Shakespeare to get to Toronto, but we're not there. And so we don't want to stop. And it's the only thing that'll stop you is pride and what you think you know. So that's why St. John said, to enter unknowing is to come to a place of knowing all things, because it's in the mind of Christ. So the Father said to me, he asked me, he said, there's this foundation, and it's who am I and who are you? You need to answer these questions for yourself in order to be able to let go and trust me and walk with me. Right? Mm-hmm. So if God is my Father, your Father, and he's spirit. He's the Father of spirits. Okay? He's not the Father of carnality, flesh. Because we think of flesh as matter. But remember, matter doesn't, according to Einstein, doesn't really exist. It's just slowed down. Right?
Yep.
Slowed down spirit. He's the Father of spirits. And he is unconditional love. Now remember, it says God does not change. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. So is God ever not unconditional love?
No.
No, he's not. He's unconditional love. I am his son. You are his son. Therefore, I am a son of God. A Ben Elohim, son of the Most High God. This is a divine being of light and of love and of light. This is a revelation. A metanoia must take place for me to live in absolute truth in the light instead of in darkness. So I got to go through a change of mind. A metanoia from the mind of carnality or man-made constructs to the mind of spirit, the mind of Christ. It's important because we've been grounded out by looking the wrong direction. Light is spirit, and darkness is carnal or fleshly. Mind of Christ, mind of man. Okay, so we kind of got that as the base. We are sons of God who don't know it because we've been distracted in delusion through what we see and feel with the five senses instead of who we really are as spirit, divine beings. So Romans 13:8 says, owe nothing to anyone except to love one another. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. Now, do you hear what it's saying? It's saying to fulfill the law.
Yeah.
We're going to look at this. Now, a natural man does not accept the things of the Ruach Elohim, for they are foolishness to him. He cannot understand them because they're spiritually discerned. So when we understand that the law of God is spirit, it's not what we think it is. It was handed down through Moses, and at that point, they created a set of rules and regulations to, as a form to try to be good. But they don't understand what it was. It's of the Spirit. But it's incredibly important. Jesus himself said, if you think I've come to set aside the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets, you're mistaken. I've come to fulfill it and bring to perfection all that's been written in it. So he didn't do away, he fulfilled. Now, if he's perfect, if I'm perfect, there's a reason he's talking like this.
Yeah.
Proverbs 4:23 says, so above all, guard your affections, the affections, of your heart, for they affect all you are. Pay attention to the welfare of your innermost being, for from there flow the wellspring of life. How important is the heart? Guard it. And this is Solomon, the wisest man we know in history other than Jesus, God in the flesh. Right?
Yes.
Guard your heart, because out of it is what's creating the wellspring of your very life. It just doesn't mean it's keeping you alive. It means out of there, it's creating your life. Proverbs, from another Young's literal translation, says, above every charge, keep your heart far, for out of it are the outgoings of life. New Living Translation, guard your heart above all else, for it determines the very course of your life. So then it would be fair to say that your heart is actually creating your life. What's going on in your life is being created from your heart. So Solomon's saying, dude, guard it. It's important. This is important stuff. He says to understand this. So wisdom is telling us something. Then look at David. David says in Proverbs 4:23, he goes, 23:7, for as has the thought in his soul, for as a man thinks in his soul, so is he. So what's in your mind, and we talked about it a moment ago, memories.
Yep.
As the man thinks, so is he. So right now, who you think you are is the sum of your memories and what you're believing in your heart, and you're creating your future right now.
Yeah.
It's not God that wants to create that, but something has to change. Thus the cross. The cross came for a reason, to show us the way. And if we want to know the way, it's just not, hey, the way. The way is to somewhere. We're going to Toronto, not just to Shakespeare. It's the way somewhere. Where? To the Father, to the top of the stairway to heaven.
Come on.
This is where we need to go. But something's got to change. Something has to change. We have to move from sin consciousness, which is separation from God, living from the outside in the carnal mind of man, which is, we'll call it the house of mirrors. That's what it is. A house of mirrors out there. And we get caught in one argument over here in this mirror and this mirror and that mirror, and we don't know all the time. It's delusions. Delusions of the mind of man. And because we're believing them, we're in our minds, then our minds are telling our hearts, and our hearts are creating it again. And we're living it like over and like a loop. And it constantly goes on. And there's a way to get out of this. But we have to understand one of the things of separation is what rabbinic for sin. Also, it's called missing the mark. If you miss the mark, you're going down the wrong way. You're doing something completely wrong. You're missing it. You're missing what's there. Okay? So it's separation from him that caused sin, sickness, poverty, and death.
Yeah.
It is union with him that causes one to become a whole being, or better yet, are you ready? Conscious of being whole. Because, see, you already are. Our problem is we were duped. And we think we're trying to get whole, to become like Christ, when you already are. But what are you living? You're living out of what your mind is telling you, what you're believing, in other words, and then what you're actually dictating out of your heart that's actually creating your world.
Wow.
Remember, you were created in the image of God. You are like him.
Come on.
So something has to change. You want to know why you're in the world? Think about it. We need to ascend. This is why we're here, to learn this. Everybody wants to jump to create universes, and they can't even control their own hearts and what's coming out of it. So I think maybe there's got to be a plane where we can actually come out of this.
Is it okay to share a thought?
Yeah.
I had this thought the other day that was really wild. Because of everything that we've been taught
Yeah.
with the Satan and all that stuff,
Yeah.
and everything God's been revealing,
Mm-hmm.
I think that whole story, or the picture of Lucifer being thrown out of heaven, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if God created a temporal realm, because temporal choices have temporal consequences and eternal choices have eternal consequences, and that entire picture is to display that choices made in eternity, in the realm of the eternal, awareness in the realm of the eternal, when you make choices in that realm, they have eternal consequences.
Well, definitely huge impacts.
Yeah, more than so in this temporal realm where we are sent as what? Children
Mm-hmm.
to learn. To learn what? The fruit of the Spirit.
That's right.
Peace, joy, love,
Yeah.
self-control.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
So there's a whole...
That was just a thought.
No, it's good. There's a whole unpacking of law, what we want to see what this really means,
Yeah.
right? So Romans 2:12 says, all who sin, listen to this, outside the law will perish without reference to it. Oh, what does that mean, Lord? That means it's in place whether you believe in it or not. Oh. And all who sin under the law, they'll be judged in accordance to with it. Now, what does that mean? It means that the judgment happens where? Here. As I'm doing it, because it's a law. Now let's look at this stuff. We perish because of darkness. Mm-hmm. And if we're under the law or in carnality of serving from a flesh mind, we fall under this judgment in this life, and the one to come as a man thinks. It's what you think. So there's a higher dimension, which is light, which is a frequency. And there is unconditional love, which is what we call heaven.
Yeah.
Okay? So when you understand these, this isn't hard to get in the understanding of, if we looked at radio waves, if we looked at TV waves, This room's full of them right now, and so is your house, all around you right now. But remember the old, what do they call them? CB radios? You had to turn the dial to get to a particular channel or frequency, and you could hear people talking on that frequency, but you couldn't hear the other frequencies. Same with the TV. The old tuners, if you turn it to one channel, you get that channel. You turn it to another channel, you get the other channel. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so let's use channels for a moment. Levels of frequency. There's the lowest one. We'll call those channels dimensions.
Yep.
And people live within that dimension. All they can see and hear is in that dimension. But is there other channels? Absolutely. They're called dimensions. And you go up, and God is He's in all dimensions. He's called a multi-dimensional God in the universe or the universe. Right?
Yep.
So God is reaching out to man in all of these, but there is a place to come up here. Remember, we'd always hear him say, come up here. You know, that's what he's talking about. So unconditional love and light are powerful. So Romans 7:7 says, what then can we say? That the law is sin? Of course not, Paul says. Yet I did not know sin except through the law. Hear this? I did not know sin except through the law. Remember back there, dying without knowing about it? Or living, not being aware of it, and yet you're still suffering from it. I did not know except through the law. I did not know what it is to covet except that the law said, you shall not covet. So think of the law. We've read it before. It's like a servant or a teacher that comes to you, takes your hand, and wakens you to that sin consciousness, which is basically this: you are not this. You are not a beast.
There you go.
A beast nature. The mark of the beast, it's a beast nature. You're living not as a beast. You see all these things? This isn't you. And so it takes your hand. You become sin or separation conscious. And then it points you to the Calvary. And you're looking at this man dying on the skull. It's the mind of man. He's revealing to us something about us. And he is the light of humanity. And he's establishing the stairway to heaven for you to get out, to come through the dimensions back to the Father into who you really are. Remember, it says to become conscious of who we already are.
Yeah.
So the law basically was awakening us. And once you start walking in love, the law doesn't even exist. It's so far below you, you don't even know it's there. If I love my wife, so I don't think I'll go home and kill her tonight.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to rob her when she's not looking. I'm going to steal her jewelry. You know what I'm saying here?
Yeah.
It's like the law is like in the wedding vows, but I wouldn't even give them the wedding vows. It's so below. But it was like an alarm system because we were all caught in the house of mirrors, and something started to shake the mirrors, and we went, what is going on? What is going on? It's like the Matrix, and the cat glitches. That's the law. The cat glitches, and that's the law waking us and going, whoa, what's going on here? Right? That's what the law was. But it's still established. We always talked about as young Christians that the, generational curses. What about generational blessings? Do you realize that thing was created like a double-edged sword, that if you went the one way, it brought these things upon you to help you turn around, but if you went the other way, you got your socks blessed off. So what was that? It's to help you. It's the teacher. It says, there's this saying, and I love this. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And there's teachers on every step. They'll appear. You don't see them prior to that.
Yeah.
Like the Beetle, I always talk about a Volkswagen Beetle. You don't see them, you buy one. Well, you know there's a couple out there, but you buy one and they're on every corner, and you're going, when did they sell all these Volkswagen Beetles, right? It's because you weren't looking, but they were there. So is the truth. There's incredible revelation. If you don't have a chance to listen to Justin and Abraham speak about the history of some things that are going on, there are people hundreds of years old on the planet that believe this stuff. Immortality is where we're going here, guys. Immortality. We're not trying to get immortality. You are immortal. It's your belief system that your mind has power.
Yeah.
It's your belief system that's messed up, and it's killing you.
Come on.
We are immortal. God created us in his image. He said, don't do this lest you die. Don't do what? Look the other direction, forget about me, and then start believing those mirrors. And next thing you know, right? What are we doing?
Yeah.
So, to awaken to the separation in our minds and who we are not, which we were speaking about earlier,
Yes.
and then come out of slavery, out of the sin consciousness, out of the sin, which is separation, which is missing the mark, to a higher order called the Spirit through Christ. Right? So Romans 7:6 says, in New American Standard, sorry, it's the New American Abbreviated, but now we are released from the law, dead to what held us captive, so that we may serve in the newness of the Spirit, not under the obsolete letter, acquaintance with sin through the law. It even says acquaintance. An acquaintance. We weren't even married to it because it's not who we are.
That's good.
So law is our friend to show us separation and bring us to serve a higher order, not carnal, but spirit. Now, I love Romans 7:14 says, we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold into slavery to sin or separation, missing the mark. Right?
Yeah.
Galatians 2:19. For through the law, and I'm giving some scriptures because it's good for us in the body of Christ to understand how these things work so that we can start to get some freedom.
Yeah.
So Romans 7:14, or sorry, I did that one. Galatians 2:19. For through the law I died to the law, that I might live for God. I've been crucified with Christ. You see, I've been separated from that separation. Something happened at Calvary through Christ. He shows us something. Psalm 119, verse 70. Their heart has become like fat, David says, without feeling. That means they have no feeling. They're not spiritually awake. I, he says, delight in your Torah. I delight in the law. Why, David? 119, uncover my eyes. I behold wonders out of the law. You see, it's a springboard into something far greater. We don't want to get stuck in the law, living there, because then we become imprisoned to it.
Yes.
But when we see what it's there for and we come up out of it, it's a whole new day. Romans 8, verse 2. I'm going through some scriptures. Hope you don't mind here to develop this a little bit, and then we'll get a little more into where it goes. For the law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus. I could read this whole thing, but I don't know if it's really necessary. It delivered you from the sin, which he condemned in his flesh, yada, 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 right? But look at what that said. There is a law of the Spirit of life. There's a new law. on a higher level.
Yeah.
We have to understand law and how it functions, and that it's a great thing. We have understood law as a bad thing because it put us in prison, and Jesus set us free, and we're so ecstatic about being free, and that's fantastic. But we didn't understand because it's spiritual. We don't understand that, in fact, we could look at how gravity works. The reason there's a law of gravity in this room right now, or you and I be up against those tiles trying to do this meeting,
Floating around, yeah.
right? That's a law. Is that a good law or a bad law?
Seems pretty good.
Okay, all law's good. We just don't understand it's the problem. Is it didn't come to imprison us, it came to set us free. When we understand the law and we live according, like David said, then we begin to enter into the fullness of Christ. He fulfilled the law. He didn't send it away. He fulfilled it. What does that mean, Father? What does that mean? It says, for those who live according to the flesh are concerned with the things of the flesh. But those who live according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit. The concern of the flesh is death. The concern of the Spirit is life and peace. Now, I don't know about you. I choose life and peace, immortality, and living in the very being of God.
That's good.
Right? Instead of choosing my ways through my grid in the mirrors of delusion and staying in death.
Yeah.
And it's all around us.
Come on.
So, there's laws. Now, I want you to think of these as good. There's a law of sowing and reaping, and it's not about money. Okay, it's not to get rich off of and rape the bride.
Yes.
It's not for that. Okay, but sowing and reaping is a law, and I'll explain it. In other words, it's trying to help you change your mind, because if you love, then love comes to you.
Yes.
If you judge, judgment comes to you. If you hate, hatred comes to you, and so on.
Yeah.
That's what sowing and reaping is God is telling us there's a higher law in the Spirit than keeping these laws down here, like, oh my gosh, don't kill your brother. Well, if you knew who your brother was, I don't even think that's an issue. So there's a higher place of seeing and understanding. That's where we want to go. So he puts these in place as generational blessings, if you will. They're blessings so that I will begin to be like my Father.
Yeah.
Therefore, I will begin to reap like him.
Mm-hmm.
Father, you remember, is a vine keeper.
Yes.
He came, and what did he do? He sowed a field, and he's looking to bear fruit of his field. So, what do we want to do? We're kings in this universe, this land, this earth.
We're sowing a field.
We're sowing a field, and we will reap what we sow. And the cross is not going to help you, because the cross is there to shine light into your skull, to tell you a revelation so that you will metanoia and begin to follow and reap the blessings of the eternal. This is spirit, not flesh.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's there. Now look at Jesus in Luke 10. He goes, you shall love Adonai your God with all your heart, your soul, your strength, and your mind. That means all of you with intent, loving the Father and your neighbor as yourself. Now, when it says neighbor, it doesn't mean my Christian brother. No. It means everybody on the planet.
Yeah.
Right? Now, it's really crazy when you look back and realize that there were 613 laws. And then there were 10 commandments. And then here's Jesus. And he gives us 2. And he says, all of the law
Yeah.
is wrapped up in these two.
You'll fulfill the law with these two.
Yeah, that's right. So he's showing us something now. It's like, in other words, he's taken this camera lens and he's slowly defining it down. First they had 613, and in the flesh they're trying to run around and keep all these things. And then all of a sudden he just fine-tunes it through Moses to 10. So now you got 10 laws. 10 laws. Right?
Yeah.
And then the same thing. But it still is showing you some revelations again to take you to Calvary. The light shines. He goes, there's two. These two. And notice what they are. Both of them are about love.
Yeah.
Both of them, because that's the highest well, there's a higher frequency, but that's the highest frequency that we're aware.
Yeah.
Right?
Come on.
It's like God created the heavens and the earth. There's many heavens, dimensions, and then there's where God comes from, which is above the heavens, because he created the heavens. Therefore, he's above and through them all.
Come on.
So, and he said to me, I won't go into that whole story right now for sake of time, but he'd said, I desire that all my children remember, be by my side. So where's that? That's above the heavens. But they will not all come. So we have a choice. We have a choice if we want to go there. But if we want to go there, we got to be willing to be unknowing to know. We got to be willing to walk up the stairway to heaven as the Father carries us up. You don't do this work at all, by the way. You can't figure this out in your mind. This is being willing. You just have to be willing and love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your strength. Not a Sunday lover. Who wrote that song again? That blessed me so much, that song, where the guy goes, oh, thank you, it's Prince. Thank you, Prince.
Oh, wow.
In Purple Rain. I don't want you to just be my Sunday lover.
Ooh.
That's what he was talking about, by
Yeah.
the way. God wants us to know him in that intimate place of liquid love. We are completely undone, right? And you have felt in those days at the Highlands there at the church, the power of God coming on us. We've seen nothing yet. This is where we're going. How I got picked up like a Marriott in that room,
Yeah.
in the glory,
marionette puppet.
in the glory of God,
Yeah.
right?
No, it was intense.
Yeah, it was like a little picture of the 70 in the Old Testament falling on the ground. They couldn't minister. I was there. And so there's something way beyond in that place of the white hot love of God that's pure and full of fire, his all-consuming love just radiating in and through us as we become one with him. That's where we're going.
Come on.
How do we know this? Ephesians 2:15, he abolishing the law with its commandments and legal claims that he might create in himself one new person in place of two, in place of duality, in place of separation, establishing peace. So there's only one person in the whole universe.
Yeah.
We're all part of him. So whatever you do unto your brother, you do unto me. You say you love God and hate your brother, you're lying to yourself, man. You don't even know what you're talking about.
Don't even know what love is.
No, you don't know God
Yeah.
because God's standing in front of you, right? We don't get this. I don't care what he's doing. That is God. Sacred unity.
Wow.
He's calling us to this place to understand so that we might be love manifested.
Well, and what's really happening is the turmoil within us is being displayed to us.
Yes.
And if we'll
Yes.
operate out of the opposite spirit, and like not opposite spirit, if we'll ascend into spirituality instead of carnality,
Yeah.
respond with a spiritual response, it'll actually then face or turn the lights on the carnality in the other person.
Yeah.
Hence why Jesus, when they said, "Where's Jesus?" and he said, "I am," it says the soldiers went head over foot. Well, Jesus didn't run away.
No.
He went with them. Why? because he said, "No one takes my life freely; I give."
Because it was him.
And so what he was showing them was, I could do what you want to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
You're wondering why I haven't ran. The disciples are probably wondering why he didn't run. We know they were. Peter took out a sword and cut a guy's ear off because he just watched Jesus do it. Right? Like, not cut a guy's ear off, but in the same manner.
Mm-hmm.
Because Jesus was trying to show them, this isn't your ability to take control over my life. I'm going to come willingly.
Yeah.
And he had to show us this. That
Father,
it was,
forgive them.
Exactly. And the whole time, I've realized that a lot of the cross for me now and the stages Jesus went through are revealing things that used to trigger me in my life that he wants me to get rid of.
Yeah, because that's just the mirrors, isn't it?
False accusation.
Just the mirrors.
He wasn't guilty, but they were accusing him. The stripes on his back. Assault. When people hurt you. Like, I saw a picture the other day. It was nuts. They showed like what like Roman whippings would look like on a back.
Mm-hmm.
You could see the bones.
Yeah, the meat was pulled right off.
Like, you could see almost the organs moving in the person while they were still alive. Like, it's not what we think. But yet, Jesus bore that and didn't hold it against them. Think about that. Like, he's literally instructing us how to live as he's going through each station of this, even to the point where they mock him. They mock his true identity. Everything, and he doesn't react.
No.
It's wild.
Because he knows sacred unity, and he's walking in the Spirit. He's not in the house of mirrors.
No, and he's not.
What is the house of mirrors? Isaiah 11. He doesn't judge by what he sees and hears in the mirrors, by appearances, but only by the word of the Father, which is what? Spirit, the mind of Christ.
That's wild.
That's why in the wilderness, what was he fighting with? Carnality.
Yeah.
Making a decision that he was going to walk by the Spirit. He had to walk as us, for us, so that we could find the way out of this house of mirrors or the darkness. Look at the mountain of transfiguration. What do you got? You got Moses and Elijah appearing on the mountain. Moses represents the law. Elijah represents the prophetic voice, prophesying to the future of what's coming. Both of them are there. The disciples look and they go, we need to build 3 churches, right? That's what we've done.
Yeah,
Built it at the foot of the cross. And what happens? Both Moses and Elijah disappear. And what do you got left? Transfiguration. You got Jesus standing there, full in the Spirit, transfigured, saying, follow me. This is where you're to come. Don't build a church building. It's me. Don't build a form.
I think he did that for us.
Yeah, he did.
Because they didn't have church buildings other than synagogues back then.
It's a form. Don't build a form.
He was talking directly to the future church.
Yeah.
Stop.
It's about becoming immortal like him.
Anytime Reformation happened, that very revelation comes out of it. Martin Luther had a beautiful saying. He said, everywhere that Jesus starts a church, Satan builds a steeple.
Yeah.
He builds a form for it to go into, so it has no effect on those outside the form.
Right.
It's wild. And what's the first thing we do when we build something? Try to protect it.
Yeah. What we know.
We know.
Yeah. It's our understanding.
It's just where we're at because we're afraid of loss.
So then Romans 12:2 says, do not conform yourselves to this age.
Come on.
Be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that you may discern what is the will of God, what is good, pleasing, and perfect. Many parts, one body. It's a revelation again. We are all one in God. Now, this oneness in God goes beyond anything our minds can really understand at this moment of what that means in spirit. It's so unified that we're one. One mind, the mind of Christ, the mind of the Spirit, so one that we understand what he meant when he said, love your neighbor as yourself. It's about love. Love is the highest road that comes through the heart. It's the way of light into sacred unity. So remember, love then must travel through the heart, which, remember, the heart is literally creating your future. So your future can change, by the way. Through the heart, it's the way of light. What's light? It's revelation into absolute truth. I will send you the Spirit, and he will lead you into all truth. So it's the light now coming, because you're now walking in the frequency of love, and the revelation's coming to you, and you're accessing the one new man, sacred unity and understanding. Jesus said in the word God in Aramaic was sacred unity. That's what he's bringing us into. So the greatest is love, unconditional love, which is the Father. It's who the Father is. You can say he's a lot of things, but seriously, you'd be quite shocked, because he is not made in our image,
Come on.
right? He is. And I will stand in this moment before we go on as a testimony, because I have seen him as he manifested to me in a way I could understand, because that's what he does, gave me a form, and then he came towards me and revealed his essence. And it is unconditional love. There was no shadow of turning in him. He wasn't judging at all. He was loving me purely, fully. And I experienced it in the bathroom, that liquid love. This is who God is. You can say, oh, and God's going to come and do that. No, he's not. He is for you, because you believe that. So guess what's going to come to you? Judge not, lest you be judged.
I said the exact same thing today. I said I've never had an encounter with God where Jesus ever pointed out one of my issues, where he ever even looked at me with disappointment. I've had like 3 or 4 like encounters where it was like face to face, real encounters with him. So real, they're probably more real than this encounter with you, And never did I ever feel that he was doing that. Now, who was the one struggling with where I was? Me.
Yeah.
Why? Because I was living in duality and feeling the pull between what he says and what I've experienced.
Exactly.
My experience is telling me a lie, and he's looking at me with truth.
With pure eyes.
Saying, Corey,
Now
you were never this.
You know what really, if anything, would rock our boat?
Whoa, what?
Is
That
the
was good.
fact that love,
Yeah.
unconditional love, the Father came and became mortal in the body of Jesus.
Yeah.
And what he did is he came here because law has to be fulfilled. And so he came here to fulfill the law by being crucified in place of us, because it demands an answer,
Yeah.
because it's law. It's
But he
not
was the answer.
but he became it.
Yeah.
So he took my place, not because he had to, not because the Father said something needs to be done here, son, you should do it. He did it so that I could go free and move to a higher state of law called love. Instead, the alarm system was just to wake me up to go to him, but instead they weren't getting it. They were creating a legal system under it, and nobody was following it. So they were breaking the law, and it wasn't working for them. So he came to fulfill it for us all, so that we could go forward. But if we still don't get it, you're still going to have it coming towards you, because of the fact it's like gravity. If he took gravity away from the planet, we're all flying out of here, guys. So law's a good thing.
Yeah, well, in what if, this is just a thought that came to me when you were sharing that. What if law is actually universal principles
Yes.
that are in operation, And so God came to set us free from those universal principles in order that we would be able to discover and rise above them instead of being bound by them.
Yes.
He was like, yes, the laws of the universe demand that if you live in a carnal nature, death be your portion.
Which he said, don't eat of this tree.
Yeah. And there's a reason why he didn't allow them to eat of the tree of the life, so they would not what? Remain in this state. So
Yeah.
he's like, you guys have entered a lower state of being.
Yes.
So I'm going to come to where you're at to show you that this lower state of being actually can't hold you here
Right.
if you follow the way.
If you follow the way, you'll come into the truth.
That's what
and
I
you'll
was
access the
seeing
tree
when
of
you were
life.
talking about that.
Yeah.
Like they are in existence.
Yes.
And it wasn't
It's like there's laws of physics, right?
exactly, and it wasn't that he was fulfilling his lust for blood.
No.
He was saying the law just simply demands what the law gets. But if there's one who overcomes the law, then the law is broken.
And how did he overcome it?
And not broken but fulfilled, therefore it cries out no longer for blood.
He fulfilled it by loving,
Yeah,
by living under a
Unconditional
high.
love, yeah.
There's a higher law that overrides that one.
exactly.
Right?
And he's saying now come into this one because though the debt has been paid,
Yes. Yes.
has been, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was paid before the foundations of the world.
That's right.
For he doesn't operate in thought or pre-thought.
Pre-thought.
You know, he
'Cause he's
operates
all-knowing.
in knowing. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow. Come on. This is good, guys.
So, Isaiah 11:3, Jesus, I quoted this earlier, his delight will be in the fear of Jehovah. And he shall not judge after the sight of the eyes or reprove after the hearing of his ears. So, fear was a delight. What does that mean? It means he turned away from the house of mirrors, the appearance of what he heard and seen in the house of mirrors. Fear is to see through the eyes of the Father, which is spirit, not through appearances in the carnal world of illusions in the mind of man. That's what the fear of the Lord is. It's a beautiful thing. It's it's metanoia, isn't it? Metanoia.
on.
We could call it, the fear of the Lord or metanoia. It's the same thing. I read this. Oh, yeah. I should throw this in. I read this, another translation I believe it was in the Aramaic, that talked about John's encounter with Jesus on Patmos. And when it says he fell as a dead man, it doesn't say what I've been taught.
Yeah.
What I've been taught is that Jesus walked up to him, and because he was in such fear of God, he fell to the ground as a dead man, right? That's what we've been taught, that kind of a perception, correct?
Yes.
Well, you see it throughout the Old Testament as well.
Yeah, like he was overwhelmed by fear and he
Yes.
fell at his feet. Yes.
But what in the original, in the translation, it says this, that Jesus walked up to him and he fell like that. That was because that was John's fear. It wasn't what Jesus was projecting. And Jesus said, don't be afraid. Get up. It's all good. In other words, it wasn't a projection coming off of love. It was what was in John
There we go.
that overcome him. You see the difference? God is not like we think he is. He's absolute, complete love. The only people that will be in terror at all is the people in their own minds that feel like they're so full of shame and things that they've done when they died that they were so couldn't take the unconditional love of God coming to get them. So what they did is stayed in a state of mind until, and that would be what we would call hell, stayed in this state until they could reconcile in themselves that God loves them. And they let go of the shame and instantly they leave.
See, I was thinking about another thing too that was really wild, was we have created so much off scriptures that we don't even understand.
Right.
Like we don't even understand them like that right there.
Yeah,
Like it's so crazy.
I know. But,
Like-
but remember what you do? You take, it's like somebody, you've said this before. If somebody comes up and says something about me, John,
Yeah.
you go, well, wait a minute. That really doesn't sound like him. I kind of know him and kind of know his character. And no, that doesn't wash with me. And that's why we have to look at the character of God that doesn't change. So when somebody comes up and gives us a false image, we go, wait a minute. That's not him. That's the God of your own making. That's a golden calf, dude. Wake up. You see, so we're not running around following every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there with an image of God that's a golden calf
Yeah.
out of their own. See, if you feel like a victim,
Yep.
you're going to create in your
God of
mind
judgment.
a just God that's going to bring justice. Well, that's your issue, man. That's not God's issue.
Come on. And even that we haven't fully understood. Like Kirby and them
Yeah.
have been unfolding how justice is the unrelenting love of God
Yeah, the wrath.
to be unfolded in your life. That's what it is. It's his unending pursuit of you.
Yeah.
It's not his wrath is not anger. It's love without end.
Do you see that this wine that we're drinking now is a good wine?
Well, and the only reason it's scary, like I had a friend one time when we were sitting talking about grace. This was a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I wasn't quite what's going on?
What happened?
It's not getting power for some reason.
Your laptop or the actual? Are we on?
Yeah, we are. We're just
Okay.
we're on borrowed time.
Oh, we don't like borrowed time.
There we go. Now we're safe.
No, we got full time.
Yeah, I didn't notice that it wasn't the little emblem. It wasn't pushed in all the way. So Woo, that was close.
Good catch, man. Good catch.
So I'm sitting with a friend
Yeah.
talking about the unrelenting love of God,
Yes.
and he says to me, "What about Hitler?"
Right.
It's a heavy question.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lord speaks to me and he goes, "Hitler's only bad if you're good."
Right.
And so I realized, and I said to him, I said, the only reason Hitler's bad is because you have judged him against yourself and deemed that you're better than him.
Right.
But the Bible tells us not to judge.
It says all have
So
sinned.
the only way he's bad is if I'm good, but none are good but my Father.
So now we're all in the same boat.
And see, but it's hard because self-righteousness
Mm-hmm.
wants to be rewarded for its sacrifice.
Yes.
It wants something. It doesn't do nothing for nothing. And in fact, this one will bake your noodle a little bit. Self-discipline halts what God's doing in your life.
Yeah.
Just hits the pause button
Mm-hmm.
until your strength wears out.
Because you believe it's you and your carnality.
Exactly. So what happens is something manifested in my life that we would call sin. Me, in my understanding, God doesn't like sin.
Right.
So in my own strength, I try to subdue it.
And by doing that, you're focusing on it.
Exactly.
You're going to
Giving
lose.
it power.
You're going to lose.
And I might go a long time.
But you didn't really go anywhere.
But I
'cause
didn't.
Even those that thought they did, what did Jesus say? If you even think about it,
You've done it.
murder, you hate that brother, you've already murdered him.
Because Jesus is saying, don't get caught up fighting what you're doing,
Right.
but let me reveal why you're thinking the way you are. Metanoia, change your mind. So this whole time that we're fighting the flesh,
Yeah.
which is rampant in religion,
It keeps us in sin conscious.
it keeps us on pause.
Yeah.
And God's just sitting there waiting for our strength to run out, that he would come and rescue us.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, bring the invitation. He turns up the heat. It starts manifesting again.
I know. Like one time I was walking off the stage at the church, and he said to me, "You know that people that are self-righteous are covered in blood, don't you?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "That's the blood from the filthy rags." Doesn't it say that?
Yeah.
That your righteousness is its filthy rags?
Well, and
That's what the unclean was outside the camp?
It's not because God wants us to be bad,
No. He
but
just,
the bad is just there as an invitation to say, hey, come see.
Mhm.
That's the thing. God always brought an invitation to what? What did he say to the prophets? look over there, look here, see this, what do you see? Constantly, over and over and over and over. And then all of a sudden, we get triggered or something happens in our life, and instead of looking at it, we run the other way in self-effort, trying to overcome something we could never overcome.
So that he'd accept us.
Because it wasn't a matter of even sin, it was a matter of perception.
Yes.
It was, who are you? And if you're not that, then you won't be that. But if you believe you are, then you will.
You'll live it. Yeah.
It's
And we're the
wild.
ones that pay the price.
Yeah, and the carnal consequences are in the carnal.
Yeah.
And we eat of that table.
I mean, we would still, like I said, we have to deal with the beliefs in the mind. I always say 30 seconds after you die will be no different than 30 seconds
For sure.
before.
I'm not saying that the transition then turns into this, like,
You don't
everybody's in utopia.
You don't slip up to well-being in the above the heavens. You have to go up
Well,
the staircase.
Like you said, when, like my thought, one of the things that I've had in a thought process with, let's say, Hitler,
Mm-hmm.
who greets him if not those he hurt
Yeah,
with unconditional love?
exactly. Because
It's
they
gonna-
see from a whole different place now.
Yeah. And so he might go through an experience, or maybe he can't handle that and chooses to descend into darkness.
Well, tell me that you wouldn't be in torment standing before those people, knowing what you've done, and now being aware, and their unconditional love of God
no
pouring
judgment.
through them,
Yeah.
with no judgment on you at all. In fact, they want to embrace you. Tell me how you're going to feel.
There's going to be a moment.
Well, it may be years. It may
Well,
be.
we don't want to put time on it.
Well, I think there is
But a
long
state of
periods of,
being.
time. According to Mike Parsons, the Lord's actually sent him into a place where he's seen his generations, and he was allowed to preach to them. And he said to him, God, I don't have any, base for this. And he said, sure you do. He said, when I was crucified, where did I go? I
To
went
the
to
captives.
preach.
Yeah.
He said, so I'm sending you to preach.
Well, and where are they if they have not descended into darkness because they couldn't handle the light?
That's right. Until they're willing to let go and love themselves.
Wow.
And
That's the important one. That's the one that we haven't, I don't know if I've ever grasped that one yet.
But
to
you-
be able to truly love myself because I haven't known myself.
so if there's any place that we don't love ourselves,
We're mad at God.
yes,
No, I
because
agree.
he gave us life.
But it's like, I'm just now
Mm.
beginning to find parts of me.
Yeah.
Like I'm remembering who he actually made with no guilt and no condemnation for the first time in my life. Because I never was looking for this before.
Exactly. You're busy trying to fix something.
I
You're not doing a great job,
I
right?
thought I was a shattered vase that
I
God
know.
had to rebuild
I
and
know.
glue back together. And it's like, no, man, you're a complete being who's forgotten.
In the house of mirrors.
And why do we drink in remembrance? To remember.
Yes.
Drink what? The blood.
We've known Christ for millions of years.
Which does what? It breaks the code of amnesia.
Yeah.
The true blood of Christ will reveal who Christ is.
Which is the DNA, the actual living word, which is the revelation of light, piercing you with the truth, which is the scrolls in the book of Revelation.
Which is why we stand staring into a mirror.
Yeah,
Because he's trying to show us who we are.
who we are. Yeah.
So,
So
yep. Continue.
wisdom and love is the way of Abba. Wisdom and love. Religion can be wisdom with no love. It has a love of doctrine. You see? Or love can be like a doctor who says, I really care about how you're feeling and where you're at, but I can't really do anything about it. So he has love, but he has no wisdom on how to fix the problem. Right? So you need both. You need wisdom, Proverbs says, to tie wisdom around your head, right? So wisdom and love are very important. When you let the love of God pour through you to all things, nothing fears you, and no harm will befall you. There's a reason why, let me think of his name now, St. Francis had animals walking up to him and communicating with him telepathically. Why? Because love was emanating from him, and they recognize God. They recognize the love. It says the whole creation is groaning, waiting for what? Sons of God to do what? Remove death and decay and bring love back into the existence, which is what they know. They're reacting to us. If you have fear, the dog is afraid, so it bites you. When one contacts God's ideas, he must give them out in order to receive the benefit from them. That's why one of my selfish motives for doing this. He must allow it all to do the same. I must allow all people to do the same, that they may grow and develop as he's growing. So we're all doing this. We're growing together as we bring the bread on the table, and we're eating this bread right now. We're partaking of it, the manna that's coming from heaven. What we're doing is we're receiving of the revelation as it unpacks to you, and then you will give it to others. It's like a water wheel. The water falls in the water wheel on these buckets.
Yep.
And then the next bucket pours, and the next bucket pours into it, and it gains momentum and power through it, right? That's what's going on.
Come on.
Is momentum. It's so that all men, we realize, are one man. The mighty works done by Jesus can and will be done by all. You will see there's nothing mysterious about these works. The mystery is only in man's mortal concept of them. It's the way we're seeing them. Nothing is a mystery once you see it. And I always think of John G. Lake. God didn't just give him an ability to heal. He showed him how he did it. So he was fully in the understanding of how to heal the sick. And it wasn't a mystery. And it wasn't mysterious or hooky spooky. It's that we don't know. So and back to that whole thing. There are a lot of things we're told. Don't look over there. That's evil. And the fact of the matter is, it's your freedom. The church held back the fork for 400 years. They said it was evil.
It's true.
Yes.
It's crazy, but it's true.
So that's just a picture of a reality. What are we holding back now that we say is no good and it's bad, when in fact it's of God? It's a way to freedom.
Yeah.
Right? Well, there's so much, like to say Jesus came from the East. It's like we think he was born in Chicago or something. No, he wasn't born in Chicago, so he's not Western. He didn't have a Western mind. We're trying to look at Eastern revelation, mystical revelation, through the mind of a Western man, and it's not working.
On a platform of logic.
On a platform of logic, you got it. And that's our biggest problem.
Which is why he even said, to the carnal mind, this is foolish.
Yeah.
To the carnal man, if you live out of your intellect, you won't even understand what I'm saying.
No.
It'll just...
Yeah. Well, we'll die.
Yeah. Wow.
It says, when man will learn to let go of self-delusions and vanities, he'll realize his ignorance and his littleness. Then will he be prepared to learn. He'll realize that the proud cannot be taught. He'll know that only the humble can perceive the truth. Become as a little child, a mindless infant, remember?
Yeah.
Letting go. Remember that youth is God's seed of love planted in the human form divine. That's inside you guys. Youth is the seed of God planted in the human form, and it's divine. Indeed, youth is the divinity within man. Youth is the life spiritual, the life beautiful. It is only life that lives and loves, the one life, eternal. Age is unspiritual, mortal, ugly, unreal. Think on that. Fear thoughts, pain thoughts, grief thoughts create the ugliness called old age. Joyous thoughts, love thoughts, ideal thoughts create the beauty called youth. Age is but a shell within which lies the gem of reality, the jewel of youth, called immortality. Immortality is living in the present with the Father, with no past, meaning living out of the memories of carnality and the trauma of who you're not, and projecting that memory into the future by expectation, and then you're creating death through the mind of man, but becoming who the Father says you are, that is already written and is and shall be as you metanoia to spirit into the mind of Christ. That's why we're turning the other way. It is this ladder of consciousness revealed in a vision to Jacob, which each of us must climb before we can enter that silent, secret place of the Most High, find that we are in the very center of every created thing, one with all things, visible and invisible, in and one of the omnipresence. In Jacob's vision, he was shown the ladder reaching from heaven to earth, out of carnality into Christ. It's in the mind. It's the journey's in our mind. We didn't go anywhere, but we're creating all this. Don't eat of that. So where are we? And who are we? We're love, and we dwell in love himself. Right now. You didn't leave him. You turned around. You can't leave Christ, because Christ, it says, he created all things are in him, through him, by him, and for him. So if all things are in him, they've never not been in him. So our Western mind has lied. This is biblical. This is the Bible, right? Yeah. Either it is or it's not. If we don't believe this, then throw the Bible out, man, because it's there telling you everything is in Christ. There's no separation. There's no us and me and him and him. We all are one in Christ. Christ is the multi-membered body of God, sacred unity. Jesus is the head of the body. We dwell in love himself. I'm almost there. Proverbs 14:12 says, there's a way that seems right to a man, but its end is the way of death. Now, I would say that's a busy highway. It's a very busy highway, isn't it? Remember, narrow is the road that leads to life, and difficult the way. Few are they that find it. Because we don't want to leave the house of mirrors. And we got told a nursery rhyme from the Greek gods.
Come on.
That it's okay. The angel of death's going to come and take you to the Mount Olympus, and everything's going to be good. And there's a God there. He's sitting on a big chair. And if you're good, you get in, or this fire is going to consume you and burn you to death. Oh, wait a minute. You already died. Oh, you mean you're going to torment you in hell and burn forever in a fire? Oh, well, how is it that I'm going to burn in a fire if I don't have a body? Math, do the math. Oh, then what is that torment, that fire? Oh, it's the all-consuming love of God. And if I'm tormented, it's because I have not accepted that love for me or for others. And I am consumed with my shame and my guilt and the lies and the condemnation. And I'm consumed and I'm stuck there until finally I'm willing to let it go and believe that God has not changed. Ben Sirah says, before everyone are life and death, whichever they choose will be given them. I don't know about you. Let's choose life. What the heck?
Give it a
Let's
shot.
go against the stream, like the, what do you call it? The fish that swim upstream, right?
Yeah.
I can't think of what it is at the moment. My brain's
Salmon.
in this. And they live.
Salmon swim.
They go up there and they bear fruit, don't they?
They spawn. Yeah.
Yes. So, hey, there's life upstream. Just because the highway's going the wrong way, this is the only time I'm going to tell you. If that's a one-way street, it's okay. Let's go the opposite direction. Okay?
Yep.
So, let us ascend Christ to the Father who's life, to be in this world, but not of it, not of the carnal world. Remember what it says? I live and move and have my being in him, Christ. Now, I want to quote a couple of things at the end here. I want to tell you about a higher law. One that is the highest law, I believe. This law, and remember laws, if you live with this law and understand it, it will be an incredible blessing to you. The law is called the law of one. It's the highest law. Let us remember that we are all one. Love your neighbor as yourself. We're all one. In this unity lies love. Inside this unity, the sacred unity, is love. In this unity lies light. So if I begin to believe and put my intent on this law, then love will start to explode in me, and I will start to come into the revelation of the truth, and the veils that I created, not God, will begin to disappear in front of my mind, and I'll begin to see unity, love, light, and joy. Remember, I think it was Justin Abraham that said joy is a serious business in heaven.
Come on.
It's one of the high spots. Unity, love, light, and joy. Unspeakable joy, full of glory. This is the heart of evolution of the Spirit. This is the evolution of a spirit being. As we come into the understanding of the law of one, which is unity, that we are one in union. It's quantum mechanics in the spirit realm.
Yes.
Even the scientists are starting to find it now. But we don't have to wait for them to peer through the microscope to begin to get this. We can understand what Jesus said. Love God with your whole being and your neighbor as you. So if I love my neighbor as much as I love myself, well, we got to love ourselves first, correct? Then what happens? Everything changes, man, on the planet. I guess John Lennon was onto something. Imagine.
He was seeing something.
Yeah, that's right. I used to think and was told that song was bad. It was about one world government and yada, yada. And now I see, wait a minute. I was running on a treadmill one day. The Spirit of God fell on me when that song came on. And I started to cry and realized, oh my gosh, John, thank you, man. Imagine, there is no heaven above us or hell beneath. Imagine, no borders, no countries, no war. Are you getting it yet? This is God. This is unity. This is love. This is God. This is the heart of the evolution of our spirit. That which is infinite. Now, this one, you're going to have to chew on it for a while. That which is infinite cannot be many. For manyness is a finite concept. The infinite is one. The finite is many. the separatedness in the mind. So to have infinity, you must identify or define that infinity as unity. Otherwise, the term does not have any reference or meaning. In an infinite creator, there's only unity. Thus, the illusion is created of light, or more properly, but less understandably, light and love. It's a fraction of the light. It's not the light. We're moving through the light. How do we know? Let's look at another picture of it. How about this? We take white light. It's one light. We shine it through a prism. And out the other side, we see different colors. Okay. Are those different colors separate from the light? Or are they all the light just shining through a prism? You see? If God is light, then we are all just coming through the prism, and we are just parts of that same light. We are all one in unity, sacred unity. I don't see yellow fighting with green. This is our problem. We don't understand infinity. We don't understand God who is one. We don't understand what this means. We've created some dude on a chair. Give me a break. If he's an omnipresent God in the universe, do we not understand Eastern? That's just Eastern mind that says he has all authority, based off of a king in Egypt or another country that sat on a throne. It doesn't mean that God in heaven, through your projection, is a man on a chair.
Yeah, which it even says, it has not entered the minds of men that which I have prepared for those who love me.
Right.
Which means, I believe, that the mind of man has not comprehended that which I have shown.
Right.
It's like when I say, like earlier, I said I had a white throne experience.
No, I know what you're talking about. It was the image.
It was a picture
Yeah.
he was showing me to teach me something. I don't think I was at the white throne judgment.
No.
Because I don't think it is what we think it is.
And even if you were, what that is part of the journey out of up the stairs, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to see a certain way, and then you get on another step and you go, well, wait a minute. See?
And it's the authentication of God in our lives. He's trying to show us who we are.
Yeah.
And it's wild because, like, we have lights all in this room right now pointed at us, but we don't see the colors.
No.
But yet they're here.
Yes.
I like that a lot. And this what the scientists are calling holodeck
Yep.
is the prism.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's wild. And he's shining through, for he is the light of the world.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So
Uh-oh.
I will tell this little story. I've said it before, but it fits really good here. But I won't get it all the whole story. I'll just get to the point. There's a girl, when she was young, got whacked by God, went out of her body's walking with Jesus, sees him in a garden, sees his eyes, comes back out of it in my living room, and I'm sitting there. We're her and my wife and a couple other people, and we're in the glory. I mean, it was intense. In my mind at that time, God's throne was right above our head. That's how intense it was. We were in a time of the rollout at the end of the Jesus movement, so we were in a revival, and so I'm in this, and she comes out of it, and she's sitting there, and she looks at me, and she goes, "Oh my gosh!" She goes, "I was walking with Jesus in a garden, and his eyes, they were amazing." I said, "Wow." And she goes, "Yeah." She goes, "Did you know that he's in you? He's looking at me right now through your eyes." Now, I had no grid work for this. I'm like, wow, that's really, I mean, I'm really drunk in the time and the glory, so I'm all good. But I haven't got a clue what she's talking about.
Yeah, you haven't, yeah.
I didn't know what she was telling me was love your neighbor as yourself, because you are Christ. She was seeing Christ in me, looking at her. Now, when will we get to the place of sacred unity that we will love our enemies because it's Christ?
Yeah.
They're in the house of mirrors. But if I don't start to love unconditionally, then I'm still blind and still held in the trapped in the mirrors. It isn't until I understand that Christ is all in all. It isn't until I get and start to move into that understanding and intention that I'll begin to experience what she did in that moment with no understanding as a baby that got saved 10 minutes ago. And here she is saying something so deep and profound that there wasn't anybody in the West that would understand what she'd just said. Nobody. I spent 35 more years till I even begin to get the concept drifting around in the room. And I'm still not seeing what she's seen. That's what I want to see. Now tell me, once you see this, right, you see the white light shining through the color. Then at that point, we're going to understand what Jesus meant by that law. Love your brother as yourself, because you're joined as one in me. We're all one. And this is a unity we don't really know about yet. I've not met anybody, but they're on the planet. There are people that have made it through the difficult way. They're immortal. But we can keep looking the wrong direction through the house of mirrors, or we can stay at those beautiful churches that Peter wanted built, which is forms. I'm not talking about denominations. I'm talking forms.
Yeah.
Or we can keep offering things to the sacred calf, that golden calf of we are creating, whatever it is. Or, whoa. Woo! Jesus, come on. Or we can begin. Open the eyes of my heart, Lord. I want to see Jesus. I want to see Jesus. High and lifted up, where his whole train fills the temple. Me, you, everybody.
Come on.
The whole human race. That's where God's going here. Reconciliation of all things. Reconciling us to what? To who we are as him in the earth. All is one. And that one is love, light. Light, love. The infinite creator. What do we mean, love, light, love? Is because light brings you into the love, and love will bring you into the light. Because they're both frequencies of the same thing. The light is piercing, called the living word of God, piercing my heart, and it's bringing me into the love. Or I'm pushed with the love of God, and not like happened to me in the bathroom. Boom, the liquid love of God, which put me on a pursuit of light. Always to the same thing. Remember, I said I'm going back to my future. That's what we're called to do. Access the love and the light of the Father so that we might know who is the Father. Who are we?
Staring into a mirror.
Yeah. Bless you guys. Any questions or references? Or I'm signing for the deal. I'm kind of sliding into the pool now, so I'm yeah. All righty. What do you see? Anything?
No, I don't think so.
I love the Father. Oh, that's good.
I don't know if you guys heard that, but Siri just said she doesn't have an answer for that. So
Yeah.
not even Siri knows.
Oh man. And wild things will start happening to you once you start, entering the twilight zone of the spirit. Wild things happen to you. I was talking about this guy with Ed Norleen on Sunday, and as I'm talking about him, I turn, and he turns around in this restaurant and walks towards me. Isn't that wild? I went, whoa, that's cool. Yeah. So, hey, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I can't wait to talk to John and John the Baptist, John the Apostle, Enoch. I mean, they're all walking around us, right? It's just they're on a dimension, a layer, a frequency of light that we don't see. But they have some insight for us, right? They'll have some great insight for us. And Jesus himself.
Come on.
May want to have a wee chat.
Might want to have a chat.
Yes. But first we got to believe. Right?
Come on.
And then what's he say? Nothing is impossible. All things are possible to him who believes. So if we would begin to focus in our mind, love the Lord our God with all our heart, and then begin to change our mind, and then change our heart to the intentions, then it gives a doorway for Jesus to show up. It's not about hope. Hope won't get him here. But if we know in our hearts, then we will. It's happened lots. We hear stories all the time, right? And those people aren't special. We're all equally the same. It's just that we're creating.
Come on.
So let's create love for one another and for the Lord. Let's change the human race in our time. While we are in time and space, we can change it by living in unconditional love and under the law of one. Under the law of one. We can do it, guys. You can do it. I believe it. Bless you. It was a good night. I hope you might want to listen to this more than once on the whole law thing and understanding law as an incredibly good thing, a gift, a blessing, even though it cost Yeshua everything to break open our minds to be able to. It comes in the natural, in the mortality, to break open our minds on the skull in order to show us to metanoia and go the other direction to spirit, so he can unpack what this is all about so that it becomes a blessing.
Come on.
Not a curse, a blessing. So, thank you for being on the journey with us. And we shall see you next week.